It's important to recognize the Native American contributions and continue cooperation with these sovereign nations that have called this land home for thousands of years. And for this, the governor was thanked.
All of our tribal chiefs and our ancestors are here with us today, and I would like to thank you in the front of them as a witness that we're grateful for what you're doing.
Then the city of Seattle laid a wreath by the chief's gravesite, followed by wreaths from the state of Washington, King, and Kitsap counties. Finally, the Suquamish tribal elders laid a wreath directly on the famous chief's grave. As the church bell began to toll, the memorial ended with the grave laying decorated with respect. Dignitaries reboarded Spirit of Seattle for the trip back across the Sound. The fireboat, Chief Seattle, once again brought up the rear with seagulls as escorts. And when the boat finally rounded the corner to re-enter Elliott Bay, geysers of water were once again pumped to mark the occasion and pay respect to the name and the man behind it all, Chief Seattle. I'm Kelly Gunther for Seattle Spotlight. This is the latest in set-top box technology, and soon it will be coming to a neighborhood near you. These next-generation cable boxes have a number of new features, including interactivity, fuzzy logic, and hard drives. They can record your favorite programs, let you interact with a TV show, even pull up internet information on your favorite TV character. Like web TV, these new boxes will blur the line between television and computer, allowing you to surf the World Wide Web from the comfort of your couch. But this set-top box will also get to know you. It will be able to track and learn your viewing and web surfing habits. And that's a concern to both the mayor of Seattle and City Councilman Jim Compton.
They're going to know an awful lot about us. They're going to know the ages of the children in the household. They're going to know the ages of the parents, their buying patterns. They'll know after a while if you drive a Buick, those kinds of things, the demographic information.
Let's take a look at a Seattle family, for example. In this household, the mom watches TV in the kitchen while she's cooking or preparing things for the family. This is the set where she spends most of her TV viewing time.
Starlog July 31st.
Dad, on the other hand, watches TV primarily in the den or family room after work. The kids have a set in their own room, and they primarily watch TV here. So it's a house with 3 TV sets, each used more by one family member than another. These new set-top boxes could begin to target the commercials played on each TV based on each family member's viewing choices. Take Dad's TV, for instance. Men wouldn't have to suffer through tampon commercials anymore. In fact, they'd be pitched specific, more masculine products, like beer. And what about Mom? A set primarily watched by the women in the house would get advertisements for things like hair care products, and not beer. Then there's the children. And the kids in the house wouldn't have to suffer through adult commercials anymore. They'd get pitched more specific products like toys. This next generation cable box could also pre-record programs it determines you might like and offer those to you the next time you watch TV. But opinions are mixed on whether these advances are promising or perilous for privacy.
It'll be a nightmare for me because my kids are just going to want me to buy more things for them than they already do.
I think I'd want to know a little bit more about it and how they were collecting the information, but I'd be curious to see how it might work.
I would like that.
I'd like that too.
The information collected would be very similar to the information gathered now as people surf the net. The websites they visit and purchases they make are often tracked by cookies. In fact, if you have a satellite dish, much of this interactive set-top technology is already in the hands of consumers and being used by the satellite companies. But unlike cable, these companies don't have to follow strict privacy guidelines. That could be troubling news in the Seattle area, where privacy is a big concern. In fact, some companies have courted controversy when they introduced new technology that encroached on privacy. Safeway is an example of a company that created privacy concerns when it introduced this card. the Safeway card. Now, if you shop at Safeway occasionally, like I do, this card can give you big discounts on groceries, but it's also a computerized tool, and it can keep track of the things you buy. That information might possibly be sold to marketers, and that's a privacy concern for many. There's also another company that's created privacy concerns with quite a few people. Last December, the phone company Quest notified its customers they would begin sharing their personal information, like calling and billing records, with marketers. Now, this created a bit of a PR problem when those customers objected, and the company decided to hold off on doing this. What all this means is that privacy is a big issue for consumers. In fact, in a recent Harris poll, 94% of consumers said they were concerned how businesses use their personal information. That was a common feeling on the streets of Seattle, where we talked to people about this new technology.
I think it's very dangerous. I think there could be some big privacy issues.
I feel like I'm losing my control, so it's concerns I have about it.
So privacy is a concern?
Yes,
But on the other hand, it's nice to have the advantages, to have all the possibilities, so that you could use it just like the internet. People choose different providers, different services.
Privacy has always been a big thing with me, and like I don't always want somebody to know what I'm doing or things like that.
But Steve Kipp from AT&T Broadband says Seattleites don't have much to worry about.
We're one of the most stringently regulated industries, if not the most, when it comes to privacy.
He says the Federal Cable Act of 1984 and additional legislation in 1992 safeguards consumers.
It really just says, and I can just read it right from here, which is that a cable operator shall not use the cable system to collect personally identifiable information concerning any subscriber without the prior written or electronic consent of the subscriber concerned.
AT&T Broadband can still sell more general information about you, though. In fact, until just recently, AT&T wrote in a brochure in capital letters, "We intend to provide your name and address to third parties and provide you an opportunity to ask us not to do so."
We never did that.
Kipp says AT&T never did sell this information, and because it's been such a big concern to their customers, they've now changed their privacy language. It now reads,
"Without your written or electronic consent, we cannot collect personal information over the cable system unless it is necessary to provide cable or other service that we provide to you." So that's really about it.
I love to hear all these assurances from the industry that, hey, trust us, but I'm sorry, I don't.
Seattle City Councilman Jim Compton remains unconvinced. Part of the reason is because AT&T's fine print also indicates that these new set-top boxes are programmed to automatically collect your personal viewing information and choices. AT&T just won't sell this information to marketers unless you say so. This information will, however, be used by AT&T and some companies it partners with to bring you cable services. Such disclosure, AT&T writes, may include, without limitation, information on the choices that you make, including the programs and websites you view or services you order on the cable system or on the internet, the time that you actually use the services or view the programs and websites, and other information about your, quote, electronic browsing.
That's all very troubling to me. That's way too big brother for me, and I really want to try to stand in the way of that.
It's troubling for the ACLU, too. They say AT&T has been evasive about strengthening its privacy policies for the consumer.
Our basic view is that you should own information about yourself. That means if another party collects that information for one purpose, they shouldn't be able to share it with another party without your permission.
Some clearly will give the cable company permission to share their information.
I don't really care if someone knows what I'm looking at because I would tell anybody anyway.
If you could have tailors or commercials specifically tailored to what you like, I mean, would that be would you see that as a good thing or a bad thing?
No, I think that'd be a good thing, actually.
But many viewers won't.
I think it's horrible. I don't think that corporations should have all this information about you and who you are. I think they already have way too much information about people. I think that it's disgusting.
Even if things could be specifically tailored for your viewing habits?
Even if. I think it's just a bad idea.
Your privacy is taken away. You have no more privacy. I mean, maybe you get your commercials are gone that you don't want to watch and your favorite shows are on, but all your privacy is gone. Anybody can find anything out about you.
AT&T says they're not convinced yet they'll even use the new technology.
We're looking at really three things with this technology. One is,
that doesn't even look like, you know, something that came out of Desert Storm or was full of cactus. I don't have a cactus in my garden. I do have some wonderful succulents that are lush and different colors and have wonderful flowers on them, and so I actually find it sort of fun to go to the different nurseries and see what new plants have they got in that I can put into my water-wise gardening. You know, what plant that takes a great deal of water can I pop out and replace, you know, that has essentially the same qualities, a large shrub, something that has berries, something that has flowers, something that has fall color, that there is just a whole palette of plants out there that don't require a great deal of water, and yet looking at them, one doesn't feel that they're looking at something that is desiccated, drying up, and unattractive.
Can you tell us if people that visit the garden seem surprised when they find out it's water-wise?
It's very interesting that it doesn't come up that often that the garden is water-wise. It's as if people come to the garden, they enjoy it, they ask for, you know, cuttings of the plants, they want to know what they are, but we don't really get into lengthy discussions about, do you realize you are looking at a garden that doesn't take much water? They just enjoy looking at it, assume, you know, that it's just a normal, you know, type garden, and it would be only after I gave them a plant that I would say, no, it likes sun, it likes good drainage, and it doesn't like a lot of water. And so it seems like everybody has a place where they don't want to water, the hose doesn't reach to. They sort of start out that way. You know, what can I put in the shade that won't take sun? What can water, what can I put in the sun that I don't have to water all the time? I don't think it's even a very intellectual process as much as it is just a convenience. You know, what will look pretty that won't take, you know, a lot of energy and a lot of water. And somehow I keep sort of tumbling to this particular kind of plant. And again, personally, because maybe it's you know, what I grew up with, because it's part of my history, they're very comfortable plants for me, and I didn't originally start growing them just because they didn't take water. I grew them because they were beautiful, and they had a long growing season. And the fact that they had the benefit of not having to turn the sprinkler on them, you know, every third day, you know, was obviously an added benefit.
Maybe you could just talk a little bit about how you think gardening in the Northwest has been changing lately, and talk a little bit about the trend, how you feel about it. Just even if you've already said some of these things before.
Yeah, no, I may say it different so that you can edit out things that sound better the next time. Since in the 15 years that I've been gardening in the Northwest, you know, I have seen, even more recently in the last 5 years, a real accelerated change in the kind of gardening that people are doing, the inquisitiveness of people to find new plant material, to grow different kinds of plants. That the rhododendrons and azaleas, of course, still sell well. The marigolds and petunias will always, you know, have a place in the garden, but there seems to be springing up more and more plant organizations, you know, garden groups that, number one, on their programs, they want to know about drought-tolerant plants that they can do. They want to know about containers gardening that doesn't take a great deal of water. There seems to be a much more of a lust to find ways to garden differently than in the past. I mean, people are really curious, and it almost is sort of a fun competition between gardeners. You know, look what I've created, look what I've done. You know, look at this new plant that I've found, and so there's definitely becoming more awareness in the Northwest of gardens, and people seem to know. Even the Seattle Times and the Arboretum, you know, are running garden contests now, where people are proud of their gardens. People are really taking them much more seriously. They're giving much more thought to, you know, how they garden. You know, they want to do something a little different. They want to, I guess, like people who are into cooking. I guess, you know, you kind of go from the bottled dressing to making your own, and that there's a sense of satisfaction, either in serving somebody a good you know, home-cooked meal as there is in the satisfaction of someone coming into your garden and identifying, you know, that you've done something a little bit different, that you've put a little of your soul, you know, into the garden, that there's something happening here, that the person is, you sort of intrinsically pick it up when you come into a garden where somebody's doing something that you haven't seen before. And I do find more and more that that people, you know, want to know more about gardening. I understand it's #1 hobby in the United States, and for those of us who spend a great deal of time in our garden, you know, that is obviously understandable to me. And so even younger and younger people now, you know, the pride in their yards, they don't want to just put in a lawn and some shrubs, you know, they want to do herb borders, or they want to do drought-tolerant borders, or they, you know, want to do perennial borders, but there's generally a real change, you know, in the sophistication and the knowledge level, you know, of gardeners. It's people really want to know more, and the nurseries are offering more now, and the catalogs, you know, are becoming competitive in what they order. The mail order catalogs that people send to. So I think that we're coming of age in the Northwest. That the rhododendron again, you know, will always have its place, but it is not the definitive plant to have in the garden. And here's my cat that enjoys the catnip and the herbs that we have here in the garden. Gives him a nice sunny place to plunk his cat body. And yes. So.
You want to talk a little bit about the catnip?
Yeah.
I like that touch. That's nice. I hope that we get some of that.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Will he get up?
I know. Come here, Ivan. Get up here. Come on. Come on. Yeah, you fat cat.
Very domestic.
He's domestic. Yeah. So.
Maybe just then finally your enjoyment. How about that as one last thing to make sure we get to talk. Not your butt.
Yeah, you come here.
We always do that. Talk about your enjoyment.
I guess, let's see, how would I approach my enjoyment on it? I guess because it comes so easy in the summer, which is the main part of the time when I'm out in the garden, you know, when it's warm and one spends a great deal of time outside, either just wandering through the garden because it's now whatever is set, it's on its way. It just, you know, the scent in the afternoon, you know, is important to me. Again, I use it a lot for cut flowers. It's always got something that's changing. It seems the hotter that the summer gets and as it goes on, more of the plants actually do start to come into bloom. My California fuchsia down there, the zascheneri, which is actually a native of California, is absolutely as happy as it could be here. It has just, you know, recently come into bloom, just as some of the other plants are quieting down. The asters, which are quite drought tolerant here, I can see budding up, and in another month they're going to be blooming. The sedums toward the end of summer get, with the cold, get darker in color and start to flower. The garden will go on, you know, for me now until almost winter, and whereas the rhododendron azalea part of the garden stopped months ago. I had a month of beauty, and then it was all over with, and this has now been going for month upon month upon month, and that's a great pleasure. And it's I might have mentioned I can either spend a lot of time working it, or I can just let it kind of tumble and do what it wants to, and so there's just, you know, pleasure in the textures, and even when there's no flowers, it's just, you know, it feels and it looks good to me, and as I say, that's part of my history. So even though I can't be home with my family, there's a whole lot of sitting here in this part of the garden and summoning up remembrances of this kind of garden. And like people like their grandmother's Cecil Bruner rose over the trellis, you know, or the peonies on, you know, Memorial Day. You know, I've got you know, a garden that makes me feel good because it is part of my heritage and my growing up. And it's resilient enough that if the cat sleeps in it or the dog runs through it, it still bounces right back again. It seems to be tolerant to the animals and the balls and the kids, and you know, whatever they break will grow back next year. So.
Yeah, I think we covered everything in my notes. I'm wondering about the exposure again of Sunset Magazine. You mentioned Sunset, but I think you trailed off into talking about, you sort of segued into something else. Never really, you said the Sunset was really interested, never didn't mention actually being on the cover.
Okay.
Maybe we should, if you want to do that.
Yeah, no, I'm not. You know, if you think that you know, gives credibility to, you know, that it's not just some crank out here with her Mediterranean plants, you know, and her cat. Let me go get my purple on, and we'll have it be set here.
Yeah, why don't you talk about, you think about it in the context of interest and exposure and people's impressions of your garden from the fact that it's low water using, and talk about how the Sunset people do it and why they wanted to feature it.
Okay. I guess part of the fun of enjoying this particular kind of water-wise gardening is that I really wasn't alone in thinking that this was, you know, a reasonable way to garden. That Sunset Magazine had actually, you know, was looking for responsible ways, you know, attractive ways for people to garden, and so they had come out and looked, you know, at some of my plantings and felt that this really was something that people, you know, they try and appeal to a broad, you know, market of people, and that that this garden was something that people could relate to. And it was sort of fun because I noticed that they didn't want to concern people, so they actually put the garden on the cover and talked about it as 40 wonder plants for the Northwest. And every one of them, you know, were plants that required very little water, had a long growing season, and most of them, you know, were in the border here. But yes, they are wonder plants for the Northwest, and are not necessarily something that one should view as, you know, something they have to get stuck with if they don't want to use a lot of water. That they're, you know, they are wonderful plants with or without the requirements of water. They just so happen to be plants for the Northwest that don't need water.
I can hear him on the mic, but I'm leaving it my camera. People go, "What's that noise?"
It was so good. I'm glad. It was so cute. I wanted to just stop and go play with him.
It reminds me of my sister's cat. He even looks like Ed.
Now he's tearing up the sedums behind us.
You know, you're too old to be frisky. How old is he?
He's born before Emily. He's about 8 or 9, and everybody thinks it's a pregnant female. It's a neutered male.
Well, neutered males, yeah, they tend to.
But he's just got the funniest body. I mean, it's like, where did you get that body?
I love his tail. Well, he's
this little rat tail, yeah.
Yeah. My cat is like 10, and he just is not a player. He's really lethargic. He's not as wide as your cat, but he would just sit and frisk around. I love the fact that
he's tearing up the.
You were the star. Oh, I better not.
Yeah, he was stealing the camera.
You were stealing. Oh, I liked it, and you started kind of laughing. He said, "I'm not touching."
Well, I knew that he was going to turn around and then start on my arm the same way he was on the wood here, and pretty soon I'd have, you know, little crunchies all up and down my arm. And
you want to tell us about the catnip? You want to tell us about the catnip, honey?
And just if he gets spooked, he'll jump on you. I mean, he'll go off and he'll push off and.
Get spooked at Auntie Nodi, would you, honey?
I don't know. I see that butterfly back there. I may just decide.
Vale, the Purple Palace, you know, seem to handle, you know, the dryness better.
And you might want to do some experimenting too with different sedums. You know, just pots of sedums. Just again the colors and stuff. And then this one is a new one this year. I hope I haven't lost the tag, but I'll have to
like the rocks look really nice. I like the way things look cascading on and between your stones. Things as well.
This is as far as the maintenance, you know, I can really clean this up, you know, or I can just, which I have, I've just sort of let it do its thing.
Well, I like it this way.
I'm gonna put more alpinaria next year, different shades, and I'm gonna pop some of the plants out and try some new drought tolerant stuff that I would like to. I've got 2 new lavenders this year which haven't bloomed yet, but next year will bloom, that I'm really interested in seeing. And then this kind of wonderful, it's called a F-man stuff. Oh, yeah. This is a huge, big, rosy flower. But it's so pretty. This one, because I was thinking that's something I'll put the California lilac, Ceanothus, and that's the Zossionaria. But yeah, and it was like I didn't. Yeah, it's like the environment is quite so hostile toward Californians now. I mean, they realize, and so it was like I didn't want to.
You didn't want to
Make too, yeah, right. It was more that these plants come from a warmer climate, and
I think you serve it well. You did exactly right.
a boxwood hedge, and then they need all of the things right in a row. But you know, you can't please everybody. But the feedback, you know, I've had on the garden, your neighbors are always, I mean, almost to the point of, you know, especially on a simple. Yeah. In fact, it's funny because over in that part of the garden, you know, which is the shady part, looking through the sort of this tunnel effect of, you know, of all this light out here, and it's sort of a nice juxtaposition to kind of look through the tunnel. You know, look through the tunnel and you look out at the ocean or something, the cave, you get that view from that.
Yeah, like that.
Let's see, Emily, she never came back out again after I brushed her hair.
She did. Yeah, she
Oh,
did.
she
She
took
went
the upper
that
road.
way so she wouldn't be in our way. Yeah,
Oh,
I
okay.
saw her. We were talking.
Okay, I guess I did.
Yeah.
She's
She's a cutie.
Yeah.
She's how old?
8.
So she just has a friend she wants.
Yeah. Jillian lives down the street here.
It's nice. Gives you something to do instead of watching TV.
Oh yeah, no, I
Barbara wants to have friends at Hogwarts.
well, and it's you know, it's tough. She has been younger, and with Jennifer being able to pop out the door and go where she wants to, it's like, well, what can I do?
It is getting harder.
Yeah.
She doesn't have to spend too much time. Do you want us out of the way, dear?
Oh, I'm shooting just around you. Don't worry about it.
I'm gonna go in the house just to see if I took my earring off. I was trying to answer some of those phone calls.
Yeah, you just do what you need to do.
And I go put Jen.
Okay. The clock, Katie. I'm just teasing.
Well, the thing was, is it was $58, and to me, that's you know all I'm gonna spend.
I think that's really expensive for a hostess gift or whatever.
Well, she took me out to eat a couple times, and it was she had moved to a new house, so I thought it was kind of like a nice housewarming
You know, when I
thing
went to
too.
Julia, I stayed there 2 nights, 3 nights, and we didn't go out or anything. In fact, we didn't go anywhere. We just one day she took off and we hung out at her pool, went swimming and stuff. And the rest of the time she was away. She was working, and I was just there by myself.
Which is
You know, all
nice
they
too
did, and this is
sometimes.
really terrible. See, I'm really bad about this, and I'm terrible about things like hostess gifts. I took a bottle of like Caswell Massey or whatever, kind of a nice, fancy bottle of lotion with me, and I thought, you know, I really should send her a thank you present afterwards, but like I just didn't. All I did was the lotion, and now I'm hearing, God, you
No, but it was a house. And it's like she came stay with me one time and bought me 2 chairs for my kitchen table, 2 extra chairs.
Your mother. She wants to do that stuff for you. I mean, my mom's the same way. She just, they're retired and don't have tons of money or anything. And I mentioned, tell me if you want me to get out of the way. And I mentioned, I want to put in a bathroom upstairs in my house. And I just mentioned that, oh yeah, well, I don't know, I got to see how much it's going to cost. I don't want to spend too much. She says, oh, your father and I will help you. And I said, Mom, I don't need help. It's not that I don't have the money. It's a matter of whether it makes financial sense for me to spend X amount if I'm only going to get Y back. It's a financial decision.
Yeah.
It's not that it's like, like when I go shopping and I say, well, I don't know if I want to spend this much. And some salesperson always says, well, we have layaway. It's not that I don't have the money. It's that it isn't worth it to me to spend this amount on that thing. It's not that I don't have the money.
Yeah.
It's just a completely different way of looking at it. But, to my mother, it always comes down to, I'll rescue you. And she's just doing it because that's the way she shows her love.
It's how we're taught in the United States, I think.
Oh. Well, this is a really hard day of work.
Yeah.
I should have brought my book.
What are you reading?
Joseph Campbell. I think I don't know if I started it when we talked to Vashon. He's maybe I had. He's the guy that has done a lot of comparative mythology. He died. He was born in turn of the century.
Yeah, you did start talking about him.
Yeah, his field was how, if you look at mythology from different cultures, you find a lot of similarities about the human condition. I mean, I think he's really Jungian in the sense of the mythology and archetypes, and it talks about what human beings need. Our own sort of psychology really is what the myths are based on. He's really brilliant, and he's studied religion from all over the world and has identified there's a certain amount of similarities between all religions. He's just quite a fascinating person. So I'm reading his biography. It's partly a biography, and partly it's like excerpts of interviews and panel discussions that he's been a part of. He's a very fascinating person. His wife, his dancer, she took from Martha Graham.
Oh, really?